Welcome to the Weekly Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Cara Carell, and today's episode we're going to be reframing what a budget actually looks like. Hint, it's not about restriction, it's permission. We'll walk through how to get honest about your spending habits and help you create simple categories that reflect your real life. You'll learn how to set realistic amounts, track your spending without obsessing, and build a routine that keeps you consistent and accountable. We'll also talk about savings, how to start small without feeling discouraged, why daily or weekly saving methods work, and how small intentional choices can add up over time. Plus, I'll share tips on using a high-yield savings account. Budgeting isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional, staying consistent, and adjusting as you go. If you're ready to stop wondering where your money went and start feeling confident about your finances, this episode is your starting point. If you've ever said to yourself, I know I should be budgeting, but I don't even know where to start, this episode is for you. Today, we're going to be talking all things budgeting. No spreadsheets required, no shame attached, and no perfection expectations. This podcast is for my post-grad young adults who are still looking for a job, for anyone that's going to be paying off student loans and debt, for solo girl travelers who like to travel often and need a plan to do that, newlyweds learning how to budget together, or couples in general that want to learn how to budget together, or anyone who just simply wants more control over their finances. No matter what stage you're in, you can definitely benefit from today's conversation. Now let's get started. First things first, a budget is not about restriction. A budget is permission, okay? It's permission to spend money intentionally, without guilt and without consistently wondering where it all went. So we're going to talk about 4 easy steps that you can take in your budgeting process when you're just beginning, okay? So whether you're budgeting in a workbook, in a notebook, on a laptop, on your phone, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you start. That is the most important part. Pick something that feels easy and accessible, because consistency beats perfection every time. You want to identify your spending habits and debts so that you can create an understanding of the problem and start implementing a different mindset around how you're going to tackle these issues. Next, you want to identify the categories that you normally spend on each week in the month. So that could be groceries, that could be gas, that can be miscellaneous entertainment. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be written out. It needs to be reflective of your spending life. A suggestion for the grocery section, for example, I would say to add a little bit more, because often when we go to the grocery store, we end up spending more than we anticipate. So I would just fluff those numbers just a little bit, just so that you give yourself some room in case you do overspend. You at least have that cushion. Step 2 would be make a plan and stick to it. So create a routine and hold yourself accountable. Commit to a specific time, either weekly or once a month, and track your budget consistently. So this is really important because you need to stick to a set day of the week. Good to just have a set time allotted to doing your budget, and I would suggest at least once a week. If you're gonna do it just one time every month, you can do that too. You just need to have to spend a little bit more time, and if you don't mind or have the time, then you could do it that way. But I suggest once a week, because when you're going through it once a week, you're more in tune with what's going on, and you're more on top of your spending sooner, instead of doing it once a month when not really knowing where all of your money went for the month and being a little confused, versus if you did it once a week where you're able to actually track better. I think once a week you're able to track a little better, and you can look at what you plan to spend for the week, what you need to spend for the week, have those numbers recorded, and then you can check them off as you are purchasing the things that you need to and spending throughout the week. This keeps you more organized if you are more consistently tracking and budgeting weekly versus once a month. But you do it how you feel comfortable doing it and whenever works best for you. Step 3 would be to set your amounts in track. So once you have your categories and you set an amount for each one that you plan to spend for that category, track it. Tracking doesn't mean obsessing, always checking your bank account every 2 seconds, every time. It means just being aware of what's going on throughout your accounts, all the accounts that you have, what's going on with your spending. You can track weekly or daily, whatever works best for you and your schedule. Like I said before, I suggest at least once a week. I think in my experience, me doing it once a week has really helped me to see the progression of my money and just to see how it has, kind of flowed up and down as the month has gone on. Number 4, you want to reflect and adjust. At the end of the month, take time to reflect. So you want to ask yourself some questions and write them down and kind of just gauge, did you stick to your budget? If not, why? Why not? What happened? Did something unexpected come up? Like a car payment, medical bill, job change, whatever. Did something come up that you weren't anticipating? This step is about learning, not judging yourself. It's just about learning to implement better habits for the next month, and also taking into consideration not only if you stuck to your budget for the month, but also for the next month, how can you prepare to be better? What can you do to implement better money habits going into the next month so that you can rectify the issues of the previous month? The reflection part is so important because if you're not reflecting, then what's the point? Yes, you want to track and you want to see where your money's going, but you also need that time, that reflection to really sit with what you did and what worked and what didn't. And you also want to plan out in the beginning of the month for the next month when you're reflecting at the end of the month. Let's talk about savings because this is where a lot of people get stuck. You don't need to start by saving hundreds of dollars. You just need to start. You can start with $50 a month. You can start with $100, $200. The goal is to work your way up, right? Increase how much you save each month, not rush the process. One method that I love is to save weekly. Depending on your budget, depending on how you get paid, it can be different. So you might not be able to save weekly. You might not be able to save daily. You might be only able to save a couple times a month. Whatever works for you. Each day and each week represent a small intentional choice. Once you decide the amount, transfer it into a high-yield savings account. So with a high-yield savings account, personally, I have PNC Bank, but there are many different ones. Sometimes you can open one through your bank. It's a separate account that has a specific interest rate. And so depending on how much money you put into this account, every month you will get dividends, you will get paid, and they will just add it to your account. Now, obviously, the more money you put, the more that you will see. So, you do what you can. And either way, as long as there's $1 in there, you're going to be making money on it. Now, how much is indicative of how much you put, obviously, but the goal is to increase every month that number that you put into your savings so that you can grow your money. You just have to do your research and figure out which one would work best for you and has a good, decent rate. I believe mine at PNC Bank is like 4 or 5% on my high-yield savings account, but it's definitely worth it. Especially if you're in a position where you can afford to save more, you'll definitely, reap the benefits of the payouts for sure. It's all about consistency over perfection. That is the main point here. As your income grows and your habits improve, your savings will grow too. The more money you hold in your account, the more growth that you'll start to see. Budgeting isn't about being perfect. It's about controlling how much you spend instead of wondering where all of your money went. Start small, stay consistent, adjust as you go. Thank you for listening.
If you like what you heard in today's episode, please like, comment, subscribe, and share to keep all things budgeting coming your way.